Mm. Jeez,
I,
now it might be we missed the
I,
beginning of it. In any case, we'll take it as read
no,
that
Jude, it's after coming in on my end. It says recording stopped and then recording restarted. So you must have been recording.
maybe okay.
Uh,
Well, one way or another, to get some of our wisdom. That's the important
uh,
thing. Bernie
uh,
Sanders is my man every time.
yeah.
AOC along with him, I think that's a very good idea. Where are the rest of the squad? Who were the rest of the
Oh,
squad?
I can't remember now. There was the AOC and there was another woman. She had with a Muslim name. Can't
Hmm.
remember what. Like she, I think maybe she lost the election. I'm not as sure. But basically, Jude, what seems to be happening, and it's out front. The oligarchs have taken over. Like when Musk can offer two voters 1 million checks each, when they can offer in key states, swing states, people coming to vote. Here's $100 to vote for us. Just going in the door. Dude, that is corruption of the highest order. And then
Surely
he
it's a
starts.
legal pact. Is it not illegal?
Well, it should be illegal, but I don't know if it is. But here's the other thing as well. There's this whole thing now. Trump is going around, and Trump says he's really, really popular. I would wonder about that. But anyway, they're saying that he's Keith Duggan, who used to work for the Donegal Democrat, by the way, who's the Irish Times man in New York these days,
Yeah.
or Washington. He says Trump is actually on the record as now making moves in the background to run for a third term,
Oh, I
and he's
saw that. I saw that.
yeah, and he says what his whole now thing is shtick or his slogan is "This is for the future of civilization." Imagine Donald Trump, a moron, a neoliberal dictator, a man I doubt who's ever read a book, has ever gone to a concert, and he's talking about civilization. Unless there's money in it, a grubby deal or whatever, I don't think the man has a clue. Civilization, would he recognize the Mona Lisa if it went past him?
Well, I don't think actually. I think he's just tossing that in as part of the flooding of the zone to say,
Yeah,
oh, I could be a way to find me getting a third term. I think he would try it if he thought he could do it, but I don't
yeah.
think American people are that stupid. I mean, I could be doing him an injustice, but I don't think they're quite that.
Oh, I'm not Jude. You know someone? I used to think like that, and I don't anymore. Jude. Well, the first time I heard I'm running for president, that's a joke. This is a reality TV star. It'd be like Alan Sugar, somebody who's no track record or
Yeah.
whatever. And the next thing he gets elected, then then he loses the next one. And by the way, he's still claiming that was rigged, which is a joke. Like
Mm.
what was it, 60 court cases, and he didn't win one of them, but he's still trying to say it. And then he gets elected by 70 what 4,000 or 74 million votes the next time. Like, Jude, I really genuinely think Americans are like the passengers on the Titanic. They go on the Titanic twice. You sort of go, did you not learn the first time?
Well, and don't forget, Pat. I mean, to be fair, don't forget that
Carney.
Mark Carney is in politics the first time in his life. He was never in politics before this.
Yeah,
So in that
But
respect, he's similar to Trump.
he's had a
That
long track record of working on economic and social issues and all the rest of it. All Trump ever did was casinos and sort of building projects. And by the way, he's been a disaster as president. Like let's see in a year's time or 2 years' time just how successful he had 7 or 8 bankruptcies. This brilliant businessman, absolute rub. He inherited 400 million from his dad.
hmm. But it's okay for us to go on about this, Pat. But he keeps winning elections,
Yeah,
and I don't know what
but you,
the only way
but
that
Hitler won elections. That doesn't make him a good president.
no, but I'm just saying you have to take that into account. We
Yeah,
may think that he's awful, but there's at present there's a majority, or there was a few months back, a majority of American people who thought he was bee's knees and voted for him.
yeah.
Anyway, enough already. I must say I thought that idea. Oh, you didn't mention that Musk said as he handed out the $1 million checks to two different people, which is, I think it has to be against the law. But anyway, he says it's not. And he says he's doing it because civilization is at stake.
Yeah, civilization was a stake.
Civilization is at stake.
Civilization was a guy. Hey, look, I think it's about 10 or 12 of the people in Trump's cabinet are billionaires.
Yeah.
And what sort of a moron votes for guys who are billionaires? And they say, "Oh, he's going to look after us."
I want, To
I've
be fair,
already
Pat, they
got
didn't know that. He hadn't formed his cabinet when they voted him in. So
Aye, but they knew.
like an
But there
aftershock.
was. But on the way in, there was a fair indication. Like Jude, even the guy in the Middle East, he's a billionaire property developer. Like I would love to know what qualifications he has. J.D. Vance wrote a book. He's an idiot. Hillbilly elegy. And some of the people are going. These are the guys that insulted Zelensky and so on, who have annoyed. Canada, who are going to probably start a trade war with the EU. See when see in a year's time, 2 years' time, we'll see how brilliant they are.
I'm not sure I would call either Trump or especially J.D. Vance morons. Vance was clever enough, bugger. His hillbilly elegy, I think, was a bit of a bestseller,
Yeah,
and he is on record as saying that Trump's a piece of crap.
yeah,
And how he got away with swiveling around, and why reporters don't confront him with it and say, in whatever it was,
yeah.
in 2020, you said, or 2016, you said Trump was a hopeless person and there's no way should he be elected. What are you doing as his vice president now? But
Sure,
again,
two or three of the senior. I can't remember the wee guy. I can't remember.
Scaramucci,
What?
Scaramucci.
No, well, Scaramucci's turned the other way. But there was two or three people about 2014, 15, and the Republican Party who said Trump was a scumbag of the highest order, who are now are slicking him. Marco Rubio being one of them.
Hmm.
There was a wee guy. His name's totally gone out of my head now. And the guy from Kentucky with the Mitch McConnell.
Oh
Like
yeah.
all those guys are like Trump then, and yet they said he was a disaster and a low class and had no brains and all that sort of stuff. So politics is a strange game.
It certainly is. As Groucho Marx says, these are my principles. If they don't sit, I've got another set here in the back. Okay, let's look at Irish politics. Pure, pristine, clean cut, away from all that grubby backhanding in the States. Verona Murphy gets a little rundown by Una Mullally, I think it is, in the
Yeah,
Irish Times. And she says, she goes back to 2019. Now, this is something I didn't know. This is Verona Murphy, who is a speaker in the Dáil and who, there's an awful lot of fuss about. And there's a very good picture, incidentally, in the Irish Times of her being hugged, more or less, by
hilarious.
Larry. And they look
Yeah.
like, I must say, a very handsome pair they make. But
Mm.
anyway, in 2019, she ran in a by-election for Fine Gael, and she caused chaos. She invoked what the Irish Times or Mullally says, a conspiracy theory that the immigrants coming to Ireland were, quotation, infiltrated by ISIS or the Islamic State, and that
Yeah.
ISIS was a big part of the immigration population in Ireland. That was so patently stupid that she
Yeah.
realized that nobody's going to believe her. And she then, I love this. I think I'm going to dig it up there. It must be, I wonder if she took it down. She went onto YouTube and she made a video saying this was a case of character assassination, people saying these things to her. And she did this with the soundtrack of Eye of the Tiger.
Uh,
The Rocky thing.
Rocky sort of stuff.
Anyway, she wound up saying she had a poor understanding of asylum issues. I would say she was being modest. I would say she has a poor understanding of pretty well everything.
Yeah.
So you see, this is the person that's been held up by Fianna Fáil as being persecuted by these nasty bloody sinners and Social Democrats and Labour saying bad things about her and some degree of misogyny and so on. And then you hear this background of kind of person that she was. It once again proves to me that the picture we have of people is totally almost dependent on what the media feed us. And if the
Yeah.
media leave out things like Una Mullally has put in today, then we're going to have a totally different view of Verona Murphy, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple of things. See this rubbish that some of the stuff has been thrown at Verona Murphy and the Dáil, this misogyny.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. Very good-looking woman, TD from
You noticed she was good
Mayo.
looking, Pat, did you?
she was on the reason she was on yesterday on the Week in Politics. Nice woman. She's very speaks of center, and she said I was there. She says she was. It was not misogyny. Mary Lou McDonald was there on shouting at what do you call it? Irvana Bachik was there, and so on. Dude, this sort of thing. This is sort of been fed. It was all misogyny and all the rest of it. But dude, Verona Murphy. When she started on about ISIS and all this sort of stuff, she was dropped by Fine Gael.
Yeah.
She's not some sort of wilting violet that what do you call it? That this poor little woman who's been victimized by all these bad men. She's a far from it. That's the first thing. Secondly, Jude, she got involved in a what do you call these sort of things? Totally dishonest type politics by throwing out this thing about ISIS. Where was the evidence? She didn't have any evidence. Dude, I read that some of these far right people are putting out this thing that most of the crime in Ireland is committed by immigrants and asylum seekers, and that the Irish population in jail is 61% immigrant. Dude, do you know what the real percentage of the population is? In jail of immigrants, 16%. Yeah. In other words, 82% 84% is native Irish. The other thing, Jude, a lot of this sort of stuff has just been out there and so on, and basically people are sort of buying into it. But our friend, the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris, said there is absolutely no evidence that the crime rate amongst immigrants is higher than that of the native population. But Jude, there's a whole lot of people spinning it out there that all our crime, all our disasters, everything that's going wrong in our society is to do with these people.
I meant to put this on today, Pat. I've forgotten what the details of it are, but there was somewhere or other the collated figures, and the immigrants, something like 70% of them have got a degree.
Yeah.
They form obviously a very important part of the health service. And there's a few other really startling figures. You see, I think the media or people through the media have persuaded us that the immigrants are a bunch of people falling out into the water off boats, and that they're coming in here and they're going into hostels and they're putting the fear of God in every woman in the country, that they're all men and they're all dangerous. And in fact, these figures of the kind of people you're talking about, they're actually well superior to the Irish people in terms of their education, in terms of their employment, all sorts of things. So we need to start thinking about what immigrants are contributing rather than what immigrants are threatening.
Jude, I knew personally a couple of people who were Egyptians who sort of left under a cloud. One was a doctor, and I can't remember what the other was. But I remember very clearly, Jude, on RT a couple of years back, one guy was a vet and the other guy was a pharmacist. And both of them says, we're sitting on, what do you call it, direct provision. The guy says, look, I know there's a shortage of vets in Ireland, which there were, by the way. And he says, I know there's a shortage of, the other guy says, pharmacist. He says, we're willing to do the exams. We're willing to do all the rest. He says, okay, except maybe we're not up to speed in English. But Jesus, Jude, you think surely this country, where there's shortage of doctors, shortage of nurses, shortage of everything, we could make use of all those people with those qualifications.
Yeah. But you see, it's because the media have convinced people, and I find myself guilty of the same thing, of these people huddled in motels, and nearly all of them young males, and some kind of a threat. It's just such a contradiction to what the facts are. And again, I blame journalism. I think an awful lot of reporters have got to make up some things in terms of their conscience. Because they're making life in some cases miserable for most immigrants. Incidentally, just come back again very briefly to the lovely Verona. In 2019, the Irish Times, Mullally's article says that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael politicians were opposed to her. And the then Taoiseach Varadkar, after she lost the 2019 election, Varadkar said he was glad Murphy wasn't elected and that it was a mistake to select her in the first place.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Nobody said that whenever they were saying, oh, poor little Verona and all the bad things they're doing to her in the Dáil.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't agree with the roaring and shouting at her. I genuinely didn't. But this portrayal of her as little sheep, little lamb Verona, is not the truth. That's not. By the way, that's not the excuse. Some of the, so on. But hey, Jude, last week, let's get this clear. You've said it, and I've said it. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael pulled a stroke. They put the thing was there. The if you're in government, you're in government. If you're in opposition, you're in opposition. And they were saying Michael Lowry's group could do both. And the other thing that they tried to do was at question time, Michael Lowry was going to be allowed to question, as a leader of a group, to allow to question the Taoiseach. Dude, how ridiculous is that? In other words, he is at 1 minute he's helping farm in the government, and then he's going to run over to the other side and ask them a question. That's taking the piss.
Yeah, Unimali says, let's imagine if it was Sinn Féin, say we're in government, and they wanted to have a handful of independents who supported their coalition to have opposition speaking time. Would there not be a real outcry about Sinn Féin and them subverting the state and God knows what? But when it's Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, different matter.
Different matter, yeah.
Yeah. Noel Grealish, by the way, I forgot to say that. Noel Grealish, one of the super junior ministers in the cabinet. What was it that they held up that he did? I'm trying to think. Slipped my mind. I'll come back again. But Grealish has started blotted his copybook as well, and yet he's been rewarded with. Oh, you heard this? It was a speaking at a public meeting in Octorard. Octorard, is that the right pronunciation? Octorard in County Galway. He was talking about the local resistance to asylum seeker accommodation in the town, and he went on record and said, these are people that are coming over here from Africa to sponge off the system here in Ireland.
Yeah.
Could you get a more explicit and obvious anti-immigration statement than that?
But they
made him a super minister.
Yeah, super junior. Yeah, but here's the other thing as well, too. I find it amazing that what do you call it? A lot of these right wingers, politicians particularly, but also agitators, are saying these people are coming over here to sponge off us. Jude, a lot of these people are economic migrants. Maybe they shouldn't be coming here, but here's the point. A lot of Irish left in America and Britain. What do you call them? They were they left poverty behind and they were going looking for a better life. We're a rich country now. And if it's after a couple of 100 years, should we send people, even in Australia, if you go to Australia, you will find Irish names everywhere. South America, what is the Avenue de Henry Higgins, or the guy that founded the Argentine Navy. Chile's the same, Peru's the same. Dude, we went everywhere. And now because people are coming to us, we have all these sort of, racist and bigots saying, oh, wait a minute, they can't come to our country.
Well, we're sort of to a white man speak with forked tongue, I think, would be really.
By the way, do you ever hear that one? I always thought it was one of the funniest things. Remember the Lone Ranger? Jay Silver. Remember that.
Hi, Silver.
Remember they asked Jay Silverheels what would an Indian call the Lone Ranger? He says, well, in our tribe would call him Kimo Sabe. And for 30 years, he had Kimo Sabe. And apparently when he died, they asked, what did that actually mean? Heap of shit.
Oh, dear. Very cruel. Very cruel.
I laugh. So here are all us wee Irish boys.
Yeah.
We're copying. Oh, by the way, as you said the other week, where in under God did cultural imperialism come? We didn't have cowboys and Indians yet. We boys in Ireland.
That's
we were
right. That's right. What was it? There was another thing about Tonto and the Lone Ranger, and they're surrounded by Indians, who were called then, and the Lone Ranger says to Tonto, "Oh, Tonto, what are we going to do now?" And Tonto says, "What do you mean, we?" Woo, woo, woo.
But it's not Jay Silverheels kept it to himself for 30 years.
The old ones are the good ones. I had an article, or I had a piece, Pat, as you know, I sent to you about Harry Houdini, who actually his real name was very boring comparison. But did you ever see that movie? You didn't see that movie with?
No. Well, his
Who
name
was
was
it?
Weiss or someone, wasn't
Tony
it?
Curtis. Tony Curtis.
Yeah.
Harry Houdini, the great escapist. But he appeared in Ireland several times in the early
Yeah.
part of the 20th century. In Belfast, the Harlan and Wolff, cunningly enough, got a good
Yeah.
bit of publicity out of their wooden material that they were building the Titanic with.
Yeah.
They built a crate and they made it so secure that Houdini was able to say, anybody want to bet me £50 that or prove to me that this can survive, or anybody could survive in this thing if it was lowered into the water? And nobody took him on. They put him into it. It was lowered down. 2 minutes later, he was clear.
Hmm.
It's just absolutely astonishing. And do you know how he died? Do you know how he died?
Aye, one of the stunts went wrong.
No. It says the report I saw. Part of his act became hit me in the stomach. Anybody wants to hit me in the stomach?
Oh, that's
Go,
right.
go ahead. But apparently somebody hit him in the stomach when he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't be laughing. The poor man died as a
Yeah.
result of it. But he was an extraordinary character. He's very interested in seances and speaking to the dead and so on. Pat, we're out
Yeah.
of time. We're out of time. Can you imagine this? That gilded half hour just flew past.
Yeah. You
Okay.
better hope you recorded it as well.
Oh, Jesus, I hope so. Okay, Pat, all the best.
All the best, Jude.
Thanks very
Good
much.
luck.
Bye.
Bye.